He danced through music videos, wore diamonds like armor, and threw parties that defined an era. He called himself Puff Daddy, then P. Diddy, then Love. Each name a reinvention, each phase a new layer of power. To the world, Sean Combs was the life of the party. But behind the closed doors of his mansions, behind the smiles and the luxury, something else was building, something darker. Because as the empire grew, so did the whispers. And now those whispers have become lawsuits, investigations, raids, and criminal charges. This is the real story of Diddy's private empire, how it rose, how it protected itself, and the secrets it may have buried to survive. Sean Combs didn't inherit wealth or fame. He built it. Born in Harlem in 1969, his father was a drug dealer murdered when Sean was just 2. Raised by a single mother, Combs attended Howard University, but dropped out to intern at Uptown Records. He had hustle, vision, ruthlessness. By the early 1990s, Combs launched Bad Boy Records. His first major signing? The notorious Big Bad Boy wasn't just a label, it was a cultural wave. Glossy music videos, designer suits, champagne-soaked parties. A glossy, aspirational black capitalism that, honestly, defined 1990s hip-hop. Combs wasn't behind the scenes. He was front and center, performing, producing, starring in his own life story. And he didn't stop with music. He built a clothing line, Sean John, a vodka brand called Ciroc, television shows and media platforms. He wasn't just a mogul, he was a symbol. But power always comes with shadows. To understand the empire, you have to understand how it was run. Diddy's world wasn't casual, it was structured, access was controlled, loyalty was demanded. He surrounded himself with bodyguards, handlers, and, well, silence. Artists who signed to Bad Boy described it as glamorous, but also isolating. Multiple acts, 112, the LOX, Danity Kane, and others, eventually left, citing tight contracts, lack of creative control, and broken promises, but very few spoke publicly. Why? Because allegedly, everyone signed NDAs, even people who just attended his parties. So there were all these rumors floating around. Private jets where no phones were allowed, mansions where cameras were, blocked off, guest lists that were vetted by bodyguards. Nothing could leave the room unless Diddy allowed it. And honestly, if you were famous in the 2000s or 2010s, you wanted to be at a Diddy party. They were just legendary. Fashion Week in New York City, Cannes in France, all-white yacht parties, mansion retreats in LA and Miami. Celebrities mingled, drinks flowed, music blasted, and yet there was always this sense of censorship. Phones weren't just discouraged, they were confiscated. Diddy controlled the image. If a photo popped up that he didn't like, it disappeared. If a story got a little too close to the truth, it was dismissed as hate or envy. But, former insiders started talking about the culture of these events. Everything was curated, everyone was watched, and everyone knew the unspoken rule: what happens here stays here. Until now. In November of 2023, Diddy's longtime partner and former artist, Cassie Ventura, filed a lawsuit that, sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. She accused Combs of physical and emotional abuse, coercion, and control, using substances to manipulate, forcing her into encounters for his benefit and, surveillance, threats, and cover-ups. The lawsuit detailed a decade of alleged trauma, documenting a timeline of manipulation and fear. Within just 24 hours, the case was settled privately. But that wasn't the end. It was really just the beginning. After Cassie, more voices followed. At least 4 additional women, some anonymous, some named, filed lawsuits in New York and California. Their claims echoed Cassie's abuse, coercion, facilitated misconduct, and a systematic cover-up of everything that happened behind the scenes. One plaintiff, identified only as Jane Doe, described being assaulted at a Diddy-hosted event as a minor. Another claimed he was involved in trafficking operations. The language in the lawsuits grew bolder predatory pattern, network of enablers, organized system of exploitation. And now, Those lawsuits have grown into a criminal case. On March 25, 2024, federal agents raided 2 of Diddy's mansions, one in Los Angeles and another down in Miami. SWAT-style teams entered the properties and hard drives, phones, surveillance systems were seized. Shortly after, Sean Combs was criminally charged. Authorities confirmed an investigation into several areas: interstate trafficking, witness intimidation, financial manipulation, and alleged involvement in organized exploitation. Multiple associates have turned over documents. At least 2 former staffers are cooperating with federal investigators. One of the most haunting aspects of this story: how few people are talking. Dozens of celebrities, some of whom built their careers with Diddy, have remained silent. No statements, no distancing, no public support or condemnation. Why? Well, because Diddy wasn't just a figurehead. He had real power in music and television, in endorsements. He could open doors or, shut them forever. And even now, as the charges stack, fear still holds. What happens when the person who sells joy may also be hiding pain? Diddy's public image was built on confidence, style, hustle. He presented himself as a symbol of success against the odds. But behind that image, there was a man obsessed with control. Control over people, over perception, over narrative. He changed his name multiple times, not just for branding, but for reinvention. He went from Puff Daddy to Diddy, from Diddy to Love. Each shift was marketed as growth, but some now see it differently, where the name change is a distraction, a way to stay ahead of the image, to outrun the truth. Sean Combs has now been criminally charged. He denies all allegations. His lawyers claim the lawsuits are baseless and financially motivated. But, the consequences have already begun. Major brands have severed ties. Investigators are building a multi-layered federal case. Witnesses are cooperating, and public perception is shifting rapidly. And for the first time in, 3 decades, the empire no longer feels invincible. At its peak, Diddy's empire was built on 2 things: image and silence. But empires built on silence crumble the moment someone speaks. And now, the people who lived in his shadow are speaking. He is no longer just a mogul. He is a defendant. He is not just losing endorsements. He is facing the law. We may never know the full truth about what happened behind those gates, but the justice system is now knocking on the doors that fame once protected. What we're watching isn't just a career collapse. It's a reckoning. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more true crime stories, where power, psychology, and legacy collide. Stay aware, stay curious, and never assume the party ends when the cameras stop rolling.